What up, is Marcus Dynasty Fun lads? We have a DeAndre Swift signed free jersey. All you have to do is be a subscriber for a chance to win. When we hit 2K, we'll be giving it away to one of you subscribers. We are going to be going through things that you need to do before a fantasy football draft, dynasty draft, rookie dynasty draft. These are all different drafts, but there are some things that you can do to prepare yourself to succeed at these drafts. And I have a couple different tips here, and then tomorrow we're going to be doing things you can do actually during the draft that are going to help put you just a spot ahead, or it helps put you in a little bit more advantageous spot. The most important thing when it comes to dynasty startups, when it comes to dynasty rookie drafts, when it comes to dynasty redrafts, or not even fantasy football redrafts, is mock drafting, and mock draft players that you like and players that you don't like, for the fact that you can kind of see, like, sometimes if I have, let's say, pick 7, I'll be pick 8 and see what pick 7 has and go, hey, do I like that roster? And then there's other times that I'm taking pick 7 and I'm picking a different position. I'll do a running back. I'll do a wide receiver. If it's redraft, a lot of times it's running back, wide receiver. If it's super flex, what happens if I have pick 7 and I have Dak? And then the other league, let's see if I do it with Jamar Chase, or let's see what happens if I have Jonathan Taylor, if he falls. Like, especially the first 3, 4, 5 rounds are going to be so crucial figuring out if you want to make that type of strategy work. Now, I've been playing this game for way too long, and the draft always goes differently than a mock draft, but it gives you an idea of, like, should I entertain this type of roster? And one of the things I actually really didn't mind doing the previous year or two is I didn't mind taking a tight end late first, which was in redraft, which was Travis Kelce. But there are some times where I look and go, do I want a QB in round 3? Do I want a QB in round 4? And a lot of times I said, no, I don't like that. I don't like my roster. I liked having a QB in round 8, 9, 10, and one of my biggest guys in redraft was Tom Brady. So again, redraft, dynasty rookie drafts, these are so important too. It's like, okay, well, I clearly see that I need a running back, and if I pick 8 in rookie draft, it's James Cook or it's no one else. Like, do I like that? And if I don't like that, which leads us to number 2, is prep your roster, especially with dynasty rookie drafts. This is mostly for dynasty rookie drafts. Is prep your roster. What I mean by that is, if you are a team that is desperately needing a wide receiver, then make sure that you can make trades to draft a wide receiver on draft day, and then you're not reaching. If you are a desperate team that needs to draft a running back, you really need pick 1, maybe 2, or depending on the Kenneth Walker, where he goes, and then you have James Cook. And then if you don't believe in James Cook, then you're kind of screwed out on the roster, or you need to trade for a running back with a different pick, or a different player, a wide receiver for a running back. So then you are able to, let's say you have pick 7 and you don't like James Cook, and you know you're not getting Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall, then you can get yourself a awesome, you could trade a wide receiver for a running back, and then you can get yourself a great wide receiver at 107, a Christian Watson, a Sky Moore, a Chris Olave, whatever you might want at 107. That's prepping your roster. It really doesn't happen in redraft. It can happen a little bit even in the keeper leagues too. That helps figure out, just prepping your roster, because if you have pick 101, let's just say, and we have keeper league, and you know the best 3 players available are wide receivers, and you have a bunch of wide receivers as keepers, maybe you trade depending on what your rules are. And that is what we get into the next thing. Always talk trades. I'm always keeping an open line of communication, especially with certain owners that I feel like start panicking and get into roster crunches. I see the teams that wait way too long, and they go, wow, I have 5, 6 good wide receivers. I don't have any good running backs. And you can put them basically in a corner and say, hey, like, I know you are desperately in need of a running back, and you can make them pay for it for their procrastination, you could say. But I'm always talking trades. I'm always trying to figure out and keep an open line of communication, especially in dynasty startups. If there's a deal to be made, if there's a deal that I think is going to be positive, I'm always talking that. Even in redraft leagues, there's times where I'm just like, hey, I have in my main redraft league, I have pick 7, and it's like, hey, if a team wants 7, and they're going to pay up for that type of pick. If they have like 11 and we switch fourths or second and fourths, and eighths or something like that, whatever it might be. It's like I'm always willing to talk trade. I think that's so important to be able to keep that open communication. And start prepping yourself with which rankings that you would like to follow by, what you feel like sets yourself in a better spot. Sometimes you have to pay for these rankings. If it's redraft, Fantasy Footballers is a great redraft show. I don't like their Dynasty content very much at all, but they're an amazing redraft show. For Dynasty rankings, a lot of times I'll go through Dynasty Nerds, or I have my own Dynasty rankings. Honestly, I mean, I don't pay for my own, but depending on what kind of categories or what kind of viewing you would like, and also have a second set that is going to be different than what everyone else is. So let's just say you go on Sleeper, and Sleeper is what everyone's doing. Then make sure you have different rankings besides Sleeper to follow and kind of go through. A lot of times I'll have a computer and an iPad, or an iPad/computer, whatever, but vice versa. And if I have, if I see some draft going, I can take those players off on a different app or a different thing. So, or if you're doing mock drafts, sometimes that's nice to do even as well, to practice that. Be like, okay, well, if I'm doing Fantasy Pro rankings and I have Sleeper app here, then I can kind of coincide. I think it's just nice to have two. If you have more than two, it can get a little confusing. I've done 3, 4 sets of rankings, and I'm just like, all of a sudden 2 players go off the board. I'm sitting there trying to cross off everybody, and I'm missing people, and ends up being a little bit of a mess, especially when Dynasty drafts are very, very long. But that is something I always have, and I feel like the teams that are especially redraft and even Dynasty startup, the teams that don't have their concrete rankings, or they just go by what Sleeper says, or they go by ESPN says, or MFL, or whatever it is. It's I feel like those teams are what's lacking. You have to figure out where you're. Honestly, one of the things, if you have time, I mean, not everyone has all the time in the world. Maybe you have the time in the world because you're watching this video. Start creating your own rankings, and then you can cross off your own things, which honestly has been super nice, because I'll go to drafts. We have a lot of live drafts that I'm a part of, local around this area, and so I'll go to my own, or I'll go to a draft to participate and have my own rankings. I'm just crossing off my own rankings, which is kind of funny, because I'm just like, oh, don't need this person, don't need this person, don't need this person. I actually had somebody in my league go, what are you doing? I've never seen that ranking sheet before. I'm like, oh, these are my rankings. I created them all. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, yeah, and I've done that for years, just because I feel like you when you get into crunch time, you almost panic and go, oh, and I've done this before where I'm like, I need to take player B, and it's like, why didn't I just take player A? He's better. He's who I had higher in the rankings, and yet player B just somehow teased me with maybe a higher ADP, or I panicked and was like, I don't know what to do, and then all of a sudden camp news comes out, and he dropped a pass. Oh my goodness, he dropped a pass. Jamar Chase dropped a pass last year in camp or in preseason. It's like panic mode. So again, this is things that you can do before the draft to set yourself apart in Dynasty Redraft, in Dynasty Rookie Drafts, and in did I say Dynasty Redrafts? Whatever. In the 3 major leagues. You got Redraft, you got Dynasty Rookies, and you got Dynasty Startups. I don't know. I am talking too fast. All right, so the next video we're going to be doing is doing things during drafts to help yourself succeed better than your opponents. All right, this is Marcus Dynasty Dads. Peace out. We'll see you tomorrow.